Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Self-Authoring Career, a series where I'll be breaking down and exploring with you what it means to take greater ownership of your career. With all of the disruption that's happening in the world and has been happening for some time, we're starting to see, aren't we, that traditional career paths are just starting to fall away a little bit. And we're now moving into some unfamiliar territory of how the world of work is really starting to emerge. Old promises of job security that perhaps our parents knew, and what it is that we're looking to be doing is starting to really shift and change a little bit of your career. What I'd like to specifically focus on in our session today in the sharing is really how reinvention is the new job security. And there's three things that I want to really be just diving into a little bit more in this short session. Number one, why accomplished professionals, probably much like yourself, are starting to become maybe a little bit disconnected from their careers despite being successful on paper. Number two, how you can still find meaningful clarity regardless of any disruption and anything that might be happening within your career. Particularly around the world of work really shifting and changing just by taking ownership and moving forward with more purpose. And of course, some ways that you can be able to take yourself through the career reinvention so that you can find more career security for yourself in the future with the 3R career reinvention method to help create that greater ownership that I was talking about so that you can really start to move forward with purpose so that you don't feel like you're starting over again and discarding everything that you have built up to date with your experience. You've got to a certain point, you don't want to throw everything away. There is still value of what you can carry forward, even if it's not exactly what you've been doing perhaps for the last 15 or 20 years. So why is it that successful professionals do start to become disconnected from the ladder that they're climbing? Is it purely just years of experience? Well, there are people that have been doing what they've been doing for a very long time and they're very happy doing it and they never want to change. So it can't solely be that. But I do think that with, looking at a cross-section of people that I've worked with over the last 9 years, over 350 people that I've personally been coaching, you start to spot some themes and you start to see some behaviors as to why is it that some people become disconnected. And I think if we just think about it like logically, how old were you when you started out on this particular career ladder? I mean, my guess is you've probably had a few promotions along the way. You've worked your way up the ladder and you've had a few pivots, maybe different industries, sidesteps a few times perhaps. But you were probably in your 20s when you started on this career ladder. And how old are you now? Well, you're probably older than in your 20s now. And although it's not solely just time, you have become a different person. Think about some of the life changes that have been happening to you. We all go through big life changes of getting married, having children, losing the people that raised us in the world. These are things that are inevitable. We kind of know that most of those things are going to happen to us. And then there's other things that accumulate as we go through life, the trials and tribulations of life. And of course, it changes us and shapes who we are. So you're not the same person that you were when you first made these career decisions. So if the alignment has gone off a little bit, then maybe it's time to recalibrate, not through the lens of the person that started this ladder in the first place, but through the lens of who you are today. If we think about the career deal, probably much like in your 20s when you started your career, well, the deal is the same, isn't it? You take a job. You give your time, your energy, you do the thing that you are asked to do by your employer, and in return, you get paid for it. You get a paycheck and you get paid on a regular basis. You don't really have to think about too much outside of the job that you're doing, and you're kind of taken care of. Your parents had the same experience, your grandparents had the same experience, but right now, this whole world is being disrupted. Many people are not able to feel that sense of security because companies are shrinking, they're shifting. Some of the roles are being outsourced, some of the roles are being dismantled, some of them are just not existing in the future. So now we've got this extra layer that started to come in where this old career deal is just no longer on the table. We can't say it with certainty anymore with all the chopping and changing that's happening in the workplaces. So what do we do about that? Well, I feel and believe that when there is disruption, there's also it presents an opportunity. Although it can be a little bit scary because we don't quite know what's coming. No one has a crystal ball. We can have our finger on the pulse as to what the trend's telling us and what's happening, but we don't totally know where things are going to end up. We can only presume and have educated guesses. But if there's one thing that I do know, is that if you are able to spot opportunities within a world of disruption, then you're always going to end up on the right side of it because you'll always lean into innovation, creativity to be able to figure out, well, where do I fit in this new world? And this is where career reinvention really comes in. You're changing and evolving as you have done since you started your career. You've got experience, you've got skills, you've got wiser down that track. You've been managing people. You're able to manage people better, stakeholders. The market is changing. The workplace is changing. And if you remain the same, that's going to still keep changing. But if you're growing and changing with it, then it becomes a little bit more of a smoother journey for you. So for where I'm sitting as a career reinvention coach, one of the things that I really see is there's fear. There's fear around this. We want the stability of the old world, but it can no longer promise that to us. Maybe there will still be people that obviously go to the end of their career and they're not affected by anything, but just take a look around you. How many people do you know that have been affected by the changes and shrinking of roles and workplaces? Maybe even you have been affected by that or might be going through it at the moment. So how can we take back some control here in a very uncertain world? You remember when we first came out of COVID and it was coined as the Great Resignation. No one wanted to move during COVID because everyone was uncertain and didn't know what the hell was going on. Then the gates literally opened up again and the world started moving and people started to then hand in their notices and find new roles. And it was coined as the Great Resignation. Now we are in a different era. Deloitte actually coined it as we've moved from the Great Resignation into the Great Reimagination. This is that disruption presents opportunity piece that I was talking about earlier. Reimagine how you can now fit in the new world. But there is a little bit of an energy that's happening at the moment that people are starting to get a little bit scared because of the mass uncertainty that is happening out there with, wars and technology advances and the disruption to the world of work as we knew it. And what happens when people get fearful? Well, they cling to safety. Yeah. I see that there's two types of people as they face the same world that we're all moving into. We're moving into it, whether we like it or not. It is happening around us. There's either the safety-led professional or there is the self-authoring professional. The safety-led might fit into that gripping onto safety. They call it job hugging. I love these terms that people come up with. They call it job hugging. Like it's very visual, that, isn't it? It's like literally just kind of I'm grabbing onto this because it feels secure and it's the only thing that I can really grab onto right now with everything else being up in the air. And with these two different types of people, they're going to have a very different mentality coming into this. If you're not job hugging, then maybe you'll start to spot in the opportunities that might exist for you. Think about it. You have developed some interpersonal skills. You've developed some leadership skills. You've just developed some hard skills. Those don't simply get thrown away, but they could be repurposed. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know what I really want to be doing next, but I know that it's not this, then know that that's probably coming from an older, wiser, more evolved version of you, from the person that actually made the decision to join that ladder in the first place. And that with the opportunities that could lie ahead for you, if you take ownership of where you want to be placed in the new world by regaining some control, then there really is a second chapter that could be carved out that could be even better than the first. I understand that when you're not happy in your role, The first thing that you want to do is, well, I'll just go and find a new one. So you activate a job search. I mean, it just sounds logical. I'm not happy here. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's go and find something else. Challenge is, I see it time and time again. If you're not certain what that something else is, it's always going to fall flat, isn't it? It's almost like it's premature. You're trying to find something that you haven't yet named. You're trying to present yourself on paper, on your CV, for something that you haven't fully understood yet in the pivot that you want to be taking. You're trying to pimp up your profile and make it magnetic, but named and owned yet. And scrolling through job boards and finding opportunities that look a little bit interesting to you and applying for these various different things, just kind of hoping and praying that you might get an opportunity or a chance to interview for it, even though you may not have the experience. Well, it can't compensate for a career direction that you haven't fully decided upon next. I think all it will be is just a great distraction. So how can you avoid going down this rabbit hole of distraction and results that really don't get you anywhere further? Maybe they get you a similar job in another company, but you didn't like the last one. Why are you going to like this one? You'll be in your honeymoon period, but I guarantee 3 to 6 months, you'll be thinking, same thing, right? I don't know what I want to do next, but I know that it's not this. So look, I changed my career heading into my 40s. I've worked with many people that have been in their 40s and their 50s that have changed the direction of their career. And I'm not talking about people that have just stepped up into a leadership role, although sometimes that's possible. Sometimes it is about reigniting the spark once again for who you are, what you do, and what ambition and results that you can really achieve in this latter half of your career. But sometimes you just are misaligned with the work that you have been doing, and it means that you need to be heading towards a different ladder, a different direction for you. I've seen people go from being a lawyer to an artist. I've seen people who have been working their entire career in a lab with Bunsen burners and a lab coat. Like they're a scientist and they have become a corporate trainer. Now, these worlds are just not the same. They sound very different, and they are, but fundamentally, they went through the same process, and the same was evident that what they were doing, that was very fit for purpose and right for them when they first started out in their career. They built up some equity, they built up some skills, some know-how, some communication, soft and hard skills. But now they feel that, I don't know if I want to be doing this for the next 10, 20 years. And if you've been in that space for a while, there's only so much you can ignore it before it keeps coming back like a boomerang. And they all went through this same process, which is the 3R career reinvention model. The 3Rs are reconnect, reimagine, and reposition for you to then reinvent how you are now showing up in your career. And notice that I'm talking about reinventing, which is like a do-over. It's like a makeover. It's like a big upgrade. I'm not talking about starting from scratch. That would be inventing. That would not be a reinvention. You can only grow as far in your career as you personally evolve. So first R, reconnect. Reconnecting is really just understanding, well, what is that career equity that you really have built up over the last 15 to 20 years? There's a little bit of an identity, isn't there, that you have built up over that time. You are somebody in your organization. You're probably in a leadership role. People listen to you when you walk into a room. You get attention. You're asking people to do stuff. They will do it because you are their superior. You go out there into another organization or you step outside of that role, maybe you don't have quite the same authority. But when you're in your organization, you do. And there's a certain identity that you have about who you are when you're at work. And I mentioned earlier about a lawyer becoming an artist. I actually worked with another lawyer. Turns out lawyers don't like their jobs very much 20 years down the track. I worked with another lawyer who wanted to set up a yoga studio. Yeah, I know, cool, right? So very different. She had ambition to be a business owner. Now, that's not always the case, but in her instance, it was. And once we got to the clarity piece of understanding that's what it was, there was a new problem, let's say, that surfaced and what we were able to really dissect within that reconnect stage. And it was the identity. She was seeing setting up this studio, or actually a series of studios is what she was wanting to do, like a franchise model. But she needed to start with one first. So even just to set up the first studio, she had a real hard time with it because her identity was still through the lens of a lawyer. And I'm not talking about the vigilance and of a lawyer and the diligence of a lawyer, although of course that is a strength of hers going into business and a good one to have. I'm actually more talking about from an identity perspective. She hadn't yet really related or recognized that the future her that wanted to set up her franchise of yoga studios was actually an emerging entrepreneur. She didn't quite understand that side of her yet because she hadn't fully been able to let it unleash it. She hadn't fully been able to connect with it, to recognize it, to understand what it feels like and what it's like to be operating from that mode. She was still coming from the old identity that wanted certainty first before she moved. But in entrepreneurship, you can't have that. So once we were able to really integrate the old identity and the new identity, taking the good from the old and carrying that forward, and also just reconnecting to who she was today with the new identity, then she was then able to open her first yoga studio. Pretty cool, hey? The second R of Reimagine. This is when we get to put everything on the table. I was speaking to someone very recently, and they were talking about how they'd been on the same track doing the same thing in program management for like a good 15 years. And they had ideas about when I graduated, I was kind of interested in this. And originally, when I started work, I wanted to follow this route, but for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And sometimes those thoughts disappear and they're no longer relevant, and sometimes they stick. And we got to get everything out on the table, no matter how ridiculous it might seem, no matter how far apart from your current reality it may sound. We want to start looking at what is really on the table and what is now actually resonating for you. Because what we're starting to see as the changes are starting to happen in the world of work is that we're seeing companies starting to hire people more on a fractional basis. So maybe it would be more of a portfolio career that you'd be heading towards. Maybe it would be more of an entrepreneur or a business owner. There are so many different things, even if you've never done it, that are possible for you in your future, and for you to even identify and recognize what you really want to do and what resonates with you. We have to reimagine and try it on for size. And then the last one is being able to present yourself to the real world, being able to show and showcase that value that you have, not just from what you used to do, but also so it fits with what you want to continue doing and doing in the future. So it makes sense to other people. So you can articulate it in a way where people understand what it is and how you can help them. Particularly if we're going down that fractional route or moving into something of a pivot away from what you have done, your bread and butter for the last 20 years. People need to understand it. So you must know how to really showcase that value and connect the dots for them, because they won't connect it themselves. And if you do all of those three things and you do them really well, you'll understand not only the skills and experience and career equity that you can carry forward, you'll also understand what that can really align to now and where it falls within this new world that is emerging, so that you can reinvent your career through expert positioning and create that second half of your career so that it's even better than the first. If you're curious about what I've been speaking about today for yourself, and you are thinking about a change, a more meaningful change, and not just sticking with the same old, you kind of feel like there's something that you want to be reimagining for yourself in your career so that you can take more ownership of where it's going, then please check out the naturalgeniusacademy.com website to find out more about this and to check out some of the programs and book your next chapter strategy call with me if there's something there that you feel that we need to be talking through. So I hope that has been helpful for you, and there are some things that you can take away. Have a great rest of the day.